All right, well, hi, everyone, and welcome to another installment of our sports mental health conversation through the Youth Sports Mental Health and Wellness Alliance. I am Will Driscoll, the Executive Director of the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame, and the Hall, in partnership with the Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters, Cutler Wellness Programs, Michael Kadire, and countless other youth sports stakeholders have formed this alliance to help foster a positive mental health atmosphere in sports. Throughout 2023, the Alliance is keeping the conversation going through hashtag Sports Mental Health Monday, where we focus on numerous topics related to sports and mental health. While the Alliance is called the Youth Sports Mental Health and Wellness Alliance, some of our Alliance supporters come from the world of intercollegiate athletics, and that is our focus for February. Collegiate student athletes were recently youth athletes, and they have important insight on this topic. Joining us today is Madeline Rudd from Old Dominion University Women's Volleyball. Rudd is a redshirt sophomore for the Monarchs and is passionate about this subject for herself and her fellow student athletes. So Madeline, thank you for joining us today.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
Well, let's kind of start with some word association. When you hear the term mental health, what comes to mind?
New. new conversation. Shouldn't be new, but it is a new conversation. It's growing and upcoming.
So when you say new, when did you first learn to start prioritizing the idea of mental health in your preparation for sports?
So my family and my environment growing up in sports has always been very welcoming to the mental health aspect. High school, there's always ups and downs. For volleyball, we go from high school volleyball to club volleyball, and they're both very different atmospheres, at least where I'm from. So that change can shift your mental health. Sometimes it's more competitive than others. Sometimes it's more for fun. So going through that and going through those waves it affects your mental health in a way. It could be good, could be bad. So that's always been an open talk in my family and with my parents. So I'm lucky to have that experience.
I think a lot of times, outsiders can sometimes forget that when you hear the term student athlete, those are two completely separate components. You have the student side and then you have the athlete side. So kind of give us a little bit of insight into just the challenges that go along with being a student and an athlete, particularly at the collegiate level.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a common theme amongst a lot of athletes is like the time constraints. So going to class, practice, sometimes 3 hours a day, class, sometimes 3+ hours a day. And then you have schoolwork and travel and all that stuff. But that's the biggest challenge. And it takes time to figure out how to complete that and get everything done that you need to get done to keep your grades up and keep your mental health healthy.
So let's go back to your recruiting process. The recruiting process gets a lot of play on the football and basketball side, but the recruiting rules and regulations are the same for all athletes, regardless of sport, when it comes to NCAA athletics. But your recruiting process was a couple years ago. What sort of questions were you asking, or what things were you looking for to make sure that you were choosing a school that was the right fit for you, both from an athletic standpoint, but also a mental health atmosphere, being a student? Like what were you looking for in that scenario?
So on the student side, I knew in high school that I wanted to go into medicine. I didn't know quite what I wanted to do in medicine, but I knew I wanted to go into a science field going into college. So that was one of the most important things that I asked was, what majors does this school offer? Also, another thing is in that area, a lot of times you'll go to schools and with your sports schedule, some majors you cannot do because like the academic rigor and the class scheduling may affect your practice schedules and stuff like that. So that was another question I really asked coaches was, is there anything I cannot study? Is there anything that I would have too hard of a time to do and get good grades and play volleyball, which is what I really wanted to do. So in that aspect for school, that was two of the biggest questions that I asked. Volleyball wise, recruiting wise for sport, the biggest was, what does your team do outside of volleyball with the coaches and without? So team bonding, community service, anything along those lines, because if that team isn't doing something outside of volleyball and school, are they really bonded? Do they really have a connection with each other and with the coaches? And that also means like, do they watch a show together every week? That's without the coaches. That's just the team. That's something that was important to me because socially, those are going to be the people I spent all my time with. So that was almost more important than the volleyball skill level and volleyball, because I know that for the next 4 years, I plan on being with those girls, and knowing them really well was really important to me to keep also that has to do with my mental health too. That's me though. Some people are different, but yeah.
You mentioned at the very beginning of this conversation, the word new, when just hearing the term mental health. So when you were going through your recruiting process, was it brought up to you by some of the schools that were recruiting you, the resources that were being committed, how they were approaching mental health for their student athletes?
No, actually, that wasn't even a question for me coming into college, and I wish it was. And now that I'm older and I know what it's like, I want to tell people to ask about that, because also a lot of schools are starting new mental health programs and making sure their athletes are able to participate physically and mentally. So that is a good thing to ask when you're going into school, definitely.
So taking that answer and saying, that it wasn't something that was necessarily brought up when you were a recruit. Now put yourself into a recruit's shoes, even though it's just a couple years removed. What other questions would you be asking regarding that specific topic? Because now schools like ODU have those resources within the athletics department. So what sort of questions would you ask now as opposed to a couple years ago?
A big one is, now that mental health is being talked about a lot more, coaches are being held to a higher standard in the way that they treat that. If they treat them like treat it like an injury or treat it like something that's non-existent. So a big thing to ask coaches would be, in a time of crisis mentally and physically, so an injury or anything else, what do you do? And that might catch some coaches off guard, honestly, because they might not have even thought about that. But hopefully now that is starting to be thought about. So if that becomes a problem, is that going to affect my playing time? Is that going to affect something along those lines of like, are you going to look at me differently? Which shouldn't be the case, but depending on their response, that would be something really important to ask them.
There's a lot of data out there that confirms the biggest priority for NCAA student athletes at all divisions, 1, 2, and 3, is mental health resources.
Yes.
Why is that the number one priority for you and your peers?
It kind of goes along with the fact that it's new to us. We have all thought it was really important. We all, as student athletes, we've realized that this is something that's important, but as adults where it's a different generation, our coaches and our administrators, they haven't thought about it now. So it's our job to bring it up to them. And it seems to be working, since that's the biggest talk amongst everyone now, not just the athletes themselves.
It's great to see the progress that is being made. And like you said, it does seem to be working because conversations are happening. We're having this conversation now between, our organizations, and we're seeing the resources that are being committed. But take it to your team level. How do you and your teammates work to ensure a positive mental health atmosphere within your program?
Well, within our program, me and my teammates are very close. We are really close knit, which I'm so lucky that that's my experience that I've had. We have a lot of talk on our team amongst our coaches. We have a culture coach who comes in and weekly and will talk to us about anything. That could be mental health. That could be anything outside of just volleyball specifically, to bring our culture together. But one of the most important things that we make sure is important on our team is to have someone on the team that you can talk to specifically. So for me, it's my 2 roommates. We're best friends, teammates. We've been here since freshman year together. And we are very honest with each other. Like, we can talk to each other and give honest opinions, and we can have breakdowns if we need to. If we're upset about something, like, we know that we can get an honest opinion from each other. And I think it was really important to our coach that everyone on the team have someone, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on your team, but someone in your life that can look at you and not just see you as your teammate, as a player, as they can see you as your whole person, and give you an honest opinion on what your thoughts are and what their thoughts are.
You know, we've done this. We've started doing this Sports Mental Health Monday back in January. And in January, we focused on emotional intelligence. In February is colleges and universities. March is going to be communication, and it's communication between coaches and athletes, parents and athletes, athlete to athlete. And you just kind of alluded to the importance of that. So if you can a little bit more, just expand on why that communication is so important and how you're able as a student athlete to ensure that that communication is there, because a lot of times without that communication, you're not going to know that there's an issue. So how important is that communication amongst you and your peers?
Yeah, it correlates back to emotional intelligence. If you're with someone every single day and you see them for hours on end, you know them, you know how they act in a normal circumstance, you know. So if you see something that's off with your teammate, you may not necessarily be as close to them as someone else. But if you see something that's off, like, talk to them. And it may be awkward. It may feel weird because not everyone is very confrontational in that way, but they may be struggling and they don't have someone to talk to, and you can be that person. Or you can bring them to someone else that may be a better conversationalist in that way.
Well, I really appreciate you kind of helping us tie that loop between the first 3 months of this. And we obviously have a full year of content that we're going to do, but I'll get you out of here on this last question. As a student athlete, how important is it to know that your school is committed to student athlete mental health and wellness?
It definitely makes me super proud. I absolutely love ODU, and I wouldn't change my experience for the whole world. And the fact that over the past 4 years that I've been here, that this conversation has grown and grown and grown, and that I've helped to be a part of it, makes me so proud. And whenever I'm talking to recruits that want to come in, or I'm talking to people in the area, I'm so happy to say that this is an important thing. Even talking to other schools, I'm on the Student Athlete Advisory Committee for Sunbelt. So we meet with other schools in the Sunbelt, and I talk to them monthly, and we've met each other in person, and being able to say, like, this is important to my school, and share with them what my school's done and got feedback from them is just really awesome to be able to share that.
Well, I hope that the next time that we're fortunate enough to talk, that the word association won't be new. The conversation will have progressed much further, and we appreciate all the work that you're doing within your program, within your college, and obviously with the conference as well, and the NCAA, to really push this issue forward. And so, Madeline, thank you for taking some time today and your willingness to talk about mental health with us as part of this initiative. So thanks for joining us today.
Of course. Again, I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, we're happy to have you. And again, everybody who will be watching this is all a part of the Youth Sports Mental Health and Wellness Alliance. Each Monday in 2023, we will be sharing content from these conversations as part of #Sports Mental Health Monday. These clips are available on all of our social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And full conversations can be found on the Hall of Fame's website, YouTube, and Facebook video pages. Thank you to all of our Alliance partners, and be on the lookout for more #Sports Mental Health Monday each and every week in 2023.